This is Matthew Cratter from Trade University, back from a week of vacation. And today I want to talk to you about Bitcoin being under a major attack. One of the things I really like about Bitcoin is it really is sort of a litmus test. And the kind of people who hate Bitcoin are usually the kind of people that you want to have nothing to do with. Do you really want to side with the cantillionaires, the prominent opponents of Bitcoin, people like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who've gotten rich by basically supporting the U.S. banking system, getting bailouts, selling sugary water to people, people like Jamie Dimon, another cantillionaire? These are people who've made money from the fiat system. They haven't really created anything of any value either. They're not like an Elon Musk or a Steve Jobs. And then, of course, there are the politicians, who helped to uphold the fiat system. People like Elizabeth Warren, the Elizabeth Warren who used to claim she was Native American in order to get better teaching jobs, the same Elizabeth Warren who rails against people who take private jets and then takes private jets herself and hides behind the cameraman when she is found out. Well, this is the person who is when I was on vacation, came out and talked about how the problems with cryptocurrency, which she certainly doesn't understand. She definitely doesn't understand Bitcoin, and how this puts the financial system in the hands of shadowy supercoders. Now, this is a great way of talking. This is persuasive language, and it's very evocative. But the problem with this is she's ignoring who is in control today. Would you rather have Satoshi Nakamoto, who left the project many, many years ago and has never made a penny from it? Or would you rather have people at the money printer, people like Jerome Powell, groups like Goldman Sachs, the great vampire squid itself, or companies like Blackrock that are buying up single-family homes, overpaying for them, getting loans from the U.S. banking system at very low interest rates to do this sort of thing. This is the fiat financial system. And I do talk about the Gray Reset and your house in this video, which I'll link to below. All of this is in the context of what I want to talk about today, which is the infrastructure bill that is currently in the Senate. And they're hoping to pass this before they go on vacation. It's not that politicians actually work, but they do pretend to take vacation as well on top of their spending our money when they are working. So anyway, this is a bill that's in the Senate. It needs to make its way. If it passes the Senate this week, it will make its way to the House of Representatives and possibly be signed by President Biden. This is a terrible bill. Like most laws that are passed by Congress this day, it's a 2,000, 3,000 page document. And when you think infrastructure bill, it does sound like a good thing. America's infrastructure has really been crumbling since the Eisenhower days. It's been a very long time since we've upgraded basic infrastructure, which is a little strange for a superpower. The problem with this bill, though, is not that it contains some infrastructure spending, which is probably a good thing, a certain amount of it. Not that America can actually afford it, because we're going to have to pay for it with printed money. But the real problem is all of the pork, all of the attacks that are hidden inside of the bill. And I should say, I've been attacking some Democrats at the beginning of this video. This is a very popular bipartisan bill. Steve Mnuchin was really against Bitcoin. Trump said he hated Bitcoin. This is not a partisan issue for me. I'm not a fan of either the blues or the reds, but we should say that this is a very popular bipartisan bill and has a good chance of passing the Senate at least. So what happened while I was gone? Banking industry almost certainly decided, let's see what garbage our lobbyists can insert into a 2,000 page bill that no one will read. And so what they did is they put some language that talks about brokers, and they expanded the definition of broker to anyone who, for consideration, whatever that means, for some sort of monetary compensation, etc., is responsible and regularly provides any service effectuating transfers of digital assets. I believe this is the second version of the language. The first version was even worse, but this is basically a shadowy attack by the bankers, because this definition is so broad, it could be construed by courts and by the IRS and by the various regulators to include Bitcoin miners, full nodes, all the DeFi protocols and parent companies. So if you own one of these DeFi protocols that's built on Ethereum, these highly centralized things that have a headquarters and a CEO, etc., this is something really to keep an eye on. And this is one of the great things about being in Bitcoin. It has the much more decentralization. Either way, this is a broad attack on cryptocurrencies and mainly Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really the only threat to the fiat system, though we should say that this definition is so broad that it could be eventually construed to include proof of stake validators, as will be set up in ETH 2.0. So this is really an attack on the entire industry. It's not an attack that can kill Bitcoin, but it's definitely a really stupid thing to put into a bill. And what it does is it really hurts the US as a home for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will be fine, but I'd like to see a country that supports all the rights that we have in the US, or all the rights we at least used to have, or try to still have, like free speech and the Second Amendment rights, etc., First and Second, and all the amendments, really. This is not the kind of language, this is not the kind of law that should be passed. This is the kind of law that is meant to hurt an entire nascent industry. So if you're a Bitcoin miner, for example, under this, and you're construed under this new law, if it does pass, if it passes the Senate and then the House and is signed by the president, if you're a Bitcoin miner and you're construed to be a broker, you would need to issue a 1099 to all clients, which is ridiculous. You don't even really have clients. You're just batching up transactions and running the proof of work algorithm, trying to guess the magic number and get paid for it. You would need to try to collect the names, addresses, social security numbers of people who were including transactions in the block that you were mining. And this is absurd, and it's not even possible. A lot of these people might even be outside the US as well, and they certainly don't want to give up their name, address, social security number. There is a sort of KYC, know your customer, that happens when you buy Bitcoin at Gemini or Coinbase or something like this. And I'm not a fan of this, but if you plan on eventually paying taxes on your Bitcoin, or you just plan on never selling it, this is what we have to do at this point. It's really the only easy way to buy Bitcoin, at least in the US, is to get KYC'd, and they collect your name and address, etc. But the problem with this new law, if it becomes law, is that Bitcoin miners cannot collect this information. It's an absurd requirement. It just cannot be done because they don't know who's behind these transactions. So they won't be able to issue a 1099, which means basically they'll be in violation of these various regulations, especially IRS regulations. And so they're just going to need to shut down and leave the US. And this is what the bankers want. This is a US Bitcoin mining ban. And it really follows in the tracks of what China did, which was very stupid for China, kicking out all the Bitcoin miners. It was a very good thing for Bitcoin. It made it more decentralized. I'd like to see a healthy Bitcoin mining industry in the US. And again, we're very early on in this industry. We should let the industry grow and develop. We shouldn't do, and this is what was allowed to happen with the internet in the 90s. There were no taxes, or there were very few taxes. There was a step back taken to allow this industry to develop and just see what it turns into, and then tax it and regulate it at that point. And what this bill does, or what this language, this broker language in the bill does, is it means it's going to hurt the cryptocurrency industry in the U.S. and it may result in all the big Bitcoin miners. You could obviously mine Bitcoin secretly in the U.S. and probably be fine, but if you're a big Bitcoin miner, you would need to obey these regulations, and so you'd be forced to close up shop and move to another country, and that would really be a net benefit for the other country and a net loss for the U.S. Now, this, as we said, this bill is not law yet. House of Representatives doesn't come back until September 20th. But even if hopefully there are changes made before this becomes law, and even before it leaves the Senate, but if it does become law, the good news is it still will not take effect until 2023. Until then, it can be we can pass new laws that reverse it, or modify or carve out exemptions for Bitcoin miners and full nodes and huge parts of the cryptocurrency industry, or it can be fought in the courts as well. So this is not a done deal. For the most part, I tend not to be politically active. I think working on the current system is like being a mechanic on the Titanic. It really is a complete waste of time because we know what's going to happen. We know how this movie plays out. That being said, I think that if you are in the U.S. and you have a senator and congressman, that you should contact them and tell them that you don't like this language in the bill. Especially contact your two senators. I'll put links in the description notes below. Here's how to look up the senators for your particular state, and then you can get contact information for them. Likewise, the House of Representatives. It's very important to make your voice heard, especially if you're a supporter of Bitcoin and you don't want to see the Bitcoin miners being crushed by the U.S. government. Again, this is not a problem for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will survive as a decentralized protocol. This could be a problem for a lot of DeFi companies and protocols that are based in the U.S., and so it will definitely hurt them more, and protocols that are fairly centralized like Ethereum as well. So make sure you know what you own, and if you do own Bitcoin, make sure you contact your House of Representatives and your representatives from your congressional district and your two senators. Meanwhile, you can always check this Twitter account, which I just discovered. Pretty funny. Did Bitcoin die today? And so you can keep track. Did Bitcoin die? No, it has not died. And it will not die. It cannot be snuffed out. It cannot be stuffed out by stupid people like Elizabeth Warren or shadowy bankers like the squid at Goldman Sachs. It will continue. But that being said, I would like to see it. I would like to see a very open industry that's allowed to blossom in the U.S. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.